while we're talking this morning, I want you to understand I'm not going to teach you about FMCSA regulations. I'm not going to teach you about the law. I'm going to teach you about precedents. A precedent is a law that was never passed. A law is something that is passed by a legislature, signed by an executive, like the city council passes a law and the mayor signs it, or the Congress passes a law and the president signs it. And we're not talking about that today. We're talking about a precedent which carries almost as much weight and what we have to deal with if we go to court. A precedent means that a judge made a decision about something that the decision had not been made before. That is appealed to a higher court, the higher court upholds it, now you're stuck with it. Whether it's right, wrong, or whatever, you're stuck with it. I'm going to give you some examples today of the things that we're talking about. The examples I give you actually happen the way I'm telling you that they happen. Those of you who have been safety managers or risk managers for a while will identify with the things we're going to talk about today. The first thing we talked about, remember, is telling the people what your company requirements are before you do any background checks and before you do MVR reports or anything like that. And you have a signed piece of paper that he knows that if he has more than one ticket, that you're not going to hire him. So he knows if he's had a ticket from 15 miles an hour or more over the limit, you're not going to hire him. So when he signs that piece of paper and then you find out that the guy flunked the drug test and this other company fired him and that's why he's sitting at your desk, you can tell him he can't have a job without being sued. Questions? Okay, most of you, even working in the trucking industry, have been in a situation where you're driving down the freeway, you look in your rearview mirror, and some truck with great big shark's teeth on the grill is about 1.5 feet off of your bumper. Scares you even though you're in the business. Can you imagine what it does to a civilian that has never driven or been in a big truck? Well, if you go to court, what you're going to see is the judge hates you, the jury hates you, and even your own attorney hates you, because they all can relate to some bad experience they had with a truck driver on the road. And now it's their chance to get even. Now they can stick it to you because they can't do it to the other people because they're not around. They don't think that way. They don't logically progress it. But one of the reasons that we settle a lot of cases out of court is because we know if we go to court, we're taking a chance on a system that is already loaded against us. We're going to talk about punitive damages. None of us want to cheat somebody out of a damage that our driver caused. If our driver hits somebody, it's his fault, and that person is hurt, we don't mind paying, well, we mind, but we're going to pay the medical bills, we're going to pay lost wages, we're going to pay for his car to get fixed, that type of thing. That's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today is if the company or the driver did something wrong, then they're going to ask for punitive damages. Punitive meaning punishing or trying to make an example out of you. $64 million, $32 million, $27 million, $1.5 million. Can anybody tell me what I'm talking about? Decisions of court cases that went to court that they should have settled out of court. In every one of those things, they had a chance to settle for half or less of what they finally got dinged for. You don't want to go to court unless you have all your ducks in a row, and then it's an iffy proposition. One of the things that we're going to say over and over again today is if it's not in writing, if it's not signed, if it's not dated, or if you cannot find it, as far as the court is concerned, it simply did not happen. You have to keep adequate, good records. It was driven home to me, it almost drove me nuts when I found out all the things that were required after my first deposition, and I knew what they were going to ask me for in court. I knew I had to do a lot better filing than I was doing because I had difficulty finding the things that they were asking me for. Remember, in a bad accident, they're going to ask you for everything from the driver's cell phone records all the way through to the Qualcomm reports for position. And there are attorneys that make their living teaching other attorneys how to sue a trucking company. And one of the things that they say in their advertisements is they say, we can find something the company or the driver did wrong. Call us, we'll get you money.